Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby, and I'm bringing you a review of the British Tier 7 tank destroyer, the AT-7. Now, what do you need to know about this tank? Well, it's fairly well armoured all around, 203mm on the front, 101 on the side, and 101 on the rear, which means that it can pretty much bounce most Tier 5 tanks completely, and Tier 6 tanks start to get a reasonable amount of penetration. Tier 7, obviously, 8 and 9, and it progressively becomes worse and worse armor-wise against higher tier tanks that it gets matched up against. However, if we compare it against the other Tier 7 tank destroyers, it's very heavily armored. But this comes at a price when we consider that the tank has 500 brake horsepower engine and it weighs 45 tons, which means that it will get up to its top speed limit, which is a very lowly 20 kilometers an hour. But you can understand that the mobility of this tank is not fantastic. Its traverse speed is okay, it's 22 degrees a second, which means that it can turn fairly quickly, but guys, you've got to really think about the situations that you put this tank into, because you're not going to be able to get out of a sticky situation very quickly. So we know it's slow and we know it's well armored. One thing I will highlight about this tank is it has a very impressive health pool of 1,250 hit points. When we compare this to other Tier 7 tank destroyers, such as the Jagdpanther, we can see that it's nearly got an extra half hit points compared to the Jagdpanther. Let's compare it to the SU-152. Here it is. We can see that it's nearly got an extra half to the SU-152 as well. So this extra health pool allows you to weather some hits from some tanks that might be absolutely crippling in the other Tier 7 tank destroyers. Now this tank, its top gun, is a 20-pounder, which is the same one that you would mount on the Centurion 7.1. What's fantastic about this is that its rate of fire is excellent. This has got basically the same DPM as a Tier 9 medium tank. Really good penetration for Tier 7, 226. However, its alpha damage is quite poor, 230. Its accuracy is brilliant, 0.31, and it's got a very low aim time of 2.1 seconds, which means that this tank really can put the pressure on the enemy. But because it's so slow, it does really bad at trading shots. So you really have to try and pressure the enemy and make sure that you put every shot into them and you don't end up trading with tanks which have a lot higher alpha damage than you. One thing I will mention if you're trying to engage one of these tanks is that, as you can see up here, it has a commander's viewport which is horrific. This will be penned nearly every time by 150mm plus. So you can shoot it from any angle that you have on the tank. So aim for here. And if you're engaging frontally, don't worry about shooting the MG port that's in front of it, because this will also do damage. So don't think that you can hide your commander's view hatches with the MG port, because it doesn't work. One thing that's very interesting about this tank is that it has a side-mounted gun, which means that if you can actually point this gun around a corner, you can hide most of your weak armor. I will say that this tank has really poor gun depression, and it has really poor gun elevation, and it's got a very poor gun arc. This means that you have to be very careful about going up and down slopes in this tank, because you will firstly angle your armor, meaning that it will almost guarantee penetration, and also you won't be able to put effective fire out on the enemy while you're traversing the terrain. So without further ado, let's look at some gameplay. So we're playing a game on steps. We can see that we've got a middly matchup where we're right in the middle. The enemy have got 4 Tier 8 tanks. This is a fairly good kind of matchup for this tank. The only kind of matchups I don't like are where there are fairly high-tiered artillery against this tank, and also where they have a significant number of highly armoured Tier 9 tanks, which the 20-pounder really doesn't perform well frontally if you can't flank them. So we can see that we have an M6 buddy who's helping me out. Oh man, he's allowing me to go a little bit faster than my top speed. He's maybe helping me out 10, 15, 20% faster. And he continues to help me to get into position, which is very nice of him. I have no idea why. Maybe he knows me. I'm thinking about going down the west flank here. If you go east in this tank, you're very open. And at the start of the game, they did have 2 artillery. And it would have been this tank does not take artillery fire very well. This is a very slow-moving target. So we can see the tiny gun arc on this tank. If you look in the lower left-hand corner, you can see the tank cannot aim very far left and right. We've put 2 shells into that SU-122-44. And we can see that there's an SU-152 trying to put pressure on us as well. I line up my shot. And I hit it, but it does no damage. Oh dear. Would have been nice to take him out. He's got a very nice rate of fire. Oh! I think that was the stock gun firing heat. So we were quite lucky to bounce that shell. But such is the trolly nature of this tank. Its armor is fantastic, troll potential. So we can see this Pershing's trying to take us out. Our gun is accurate enough to pinpoint the weak points on his tank, penetrate him twice. 3 times. You can see the fantastic rate of fire for this on a tier 7 tank destroyer. The same sort of DPM as a Centurion 7-1. Here we can see a KV-4 YOLOing. We failed to penetrate his side armor there. I fall back into position, not wanting to get shot at. This tank does not take fire very well from very high penetrating tanks such as the KV-4, and anyone who knows what they're doing can really take advantage of the weak points of this tank. So we can see there's an SU-152 who's just been taken out, so I decide to go to town on this KV-4, and now check this out. I catch his tracks. He starts to turn his gun. I notice that he has the stock gun, so I'm feeling a lot more confident about taking fire, so I just decide to take it. So we've already done 867 damage to him. 1,100. I'm keeping him tracked. And he hits my tracks again with his 122mm. There's nothing he can do here. And we kill the whole of his tank. He got himself into a dodgy position, but maybe he underestimated the damage potential of the 20-pounder with its amazing rate of fire on the AT-7. So, there's a Lurve on my flank, backing me up with very low health, and a Tiger 2 on half health. And we're going against a KV-5, Super Pershing, and an M4. So I decide to try and prioritize the Super Pershing, being a tank that can actually really damage me. And we take him out before he's able to get a shot on us. This M4 is sleeping, and so we decide to punish him as well. I don't want to get shot by the KV-5, so I go forwards to try and avoid the KV-5 fire. And we finish off the M4. Now turn to attack the KV-5. I've got health. He manages to take out my commander. Let's actually just take a quick look where he shot. I think he probably shot up here, killed my commander and did max damage. So I want him to fire and I want to bounce, and then I'll advance at him. We managed to put a shell into him and pull back. So I decide it's time to attack because we're losing base. I weather the storm of his shell and take advantage of his weak point to penetrate him and take him out. So at this point I was thinking, well, this was a fairly okay game, managing to do so much damage to tier 8 tanks. Please defend the base, please defend the base. Just going to speed it up a little bit. And yes, that was my... I did a victory shout, I think, while I was streaming this game. I was quite happy. I'd been trying to get the old mastery badge in this tank for quite a while. It's just going to speed it up until the end. You can see there's a Jagdpanther too. Unfortunately hit him for no damage. And he dies. So let's take a look at the post-game stats in the AT-7. So we can see we got 2,061 experience as well as 87,500 credits, although I will add that this was during the recent event where tier 7 tanks made 50% bonus credits. So don't think that you're going to be making 87k credits all the time in the AT-7, guys. We hit 26 out of 27 shots, but somebody else must have picked up the sniper medal, because we didn't get it, even though we had 96% accuracy. We did hardly any damage upon detecting, but we did a whopping 4,253 regular damage, which really dwarfed the rest of our team. And our experience mimics that as well. We really were very fortunate to be able to catch that KV-4, but that's what this tank does best. Engagements at mid to long ranges against targets which it can penetrate reliably, and where the opponent can't penetrate you reliably. That, in my opinion, is the ultimate situation to get in this tank. We took 10 hits and we received 4,075 potential damage, and we still finished the game with a couple of hits left in us. We can see that having that huge health pool of 1,250 allowed us to really beast that KV-5 at the end, and we just said, wow, we'll take the hits, but you know we're going to take you out as well. And with the fantastic DPM on this 87, really, it can overwhelm opponents and basically kill them before they can kill you. Now guys, I loved this tank. I thought it was fantastic in certain situations. Its slow speed means that I probably won't be keeping it, but I still fully recommend it. And if you like to have like a bit of a funky tank that is quite different to the other tier 7 tank destroyers, I do fully recommend the 87. I think this is probably one of the best British tank destroyers tier for tier, and I think it's a little gem. When you get the top 20 pounder on it, you can put out some serious punishment on the enemy. I nearly had a Kolobanov's medal in this tank the other day on stream, but didn't quite get it. We got hit by the artillery on the last shell. But I finished my grind on this tank with over 1,000 average experience per battle. This is an absolute beast tank, and yeah, I fully recommend it. It's just because it's so slow, it doesn't match my playstyle. It's not really an enjoyable playstyle for me to have to rely on your team and not have the maneuverability to be able to go where you're needed to carry the game. As always guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then think about rating it at the bottom. I'd really appreciate it. And I live stream on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays. Look down in the description box if you want to know more info. You've been epic. Thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys soon.